As night falls, the silhouette of the old castle looms under the pale glow of the moon. Its jagged outline cuts through the darkness, an eerie reminder of its forgotten past. The wind whispers through shattered windows, sending flickering candlelight dancing across the cold stone walls. The air is thick with dust and dampness. This place is soaked in history, every brick and every door frame holding secrets long buried. But tonight, this silent ruin has become the final resting place of an unexpected guest. A few weeks ago, in this long-abandoned castle, the police stumbled upon a letter, a will to be exact. And what was written inside led them to an unsettling discovery. The deceased was none other than the castle's last known owner, Arthur Grant, a man whose life was shrouded in mystery. On the surface, his death appeared natural. But the words he left behind hinted at something far more sinister, a hidden truth, a crime that had been buried and forgotten. The autopsy confirmed that Arthur wasn't murdered, at least not directly. But his final message suggested otherwise. Was this letter a quiet farewell to a secret he had carried for years? Or was it the first piece of a much larger puzzle, one that could unravel into yet another crime? The letter did not name names, but its cryptic clues sent chills down the spines of those who read it. It spoke of scattered details, old family matters, lost fortunes, an unnamed crime, fragments of a forgotten story that for years had remained unseen. Now, all at once, they resurfaced, daring investigators to piece them together. For decades, the Grant family had lived in near isolation, their affairs sealed away from the outside world. Few truly knew what went on behind the castle's imposing walls. And now, with Arthur's final words, it was as if a long, locked door had finally creaked open, only to reveal even more unsettling questions. His life, his past, and the mysteries he left behind were now part of the castle's enduring silence. Tonight, we delve into the mystery of Arthur Grant's will. What hidden truths lie within his final words? Was it simply the musings of a man at the end of his life? Or was it something far more chilling? But before we descend into the depths of this mystery, we must first go back to the origins of the Grant family, to the tangled history that may hold the key to it all. Are you ready? Because what we're about to uncover might just lead us into a mystery that spans across time itself. Arthur Grant's story is far more complex than it first appears. He was born into an ancient and enigmatic family, a lineage steeped in tradition, mystery, and a sense of fate that seemed almost inescapable. Rumors swirled that the Grant family had long been entangled in a series of baffling, unsolved cases, each generation burdened by an unshakable curse. And Arthur, he was both the heir to this legacy and its reluctant prisoner. At the onset of the investigation, authorities combed through family archives and historical records, uncovering a past riddled with scandal. Arthur's father had been forced into seclusion following a political disgrace, forever staining the family's once pristine reputation. Perhaps it was this legacy that shaped Arthur's own rebellious yet reserved nature, a silent defiance against the weight of his inheritance. In social circles, he was an enigma, charming yet distant, always carrying an air of secrecy, as if guarding something he dared not reveal. Yet Arthur was no mere recluse. His network of acquaintances spanned far and wide, from high society intellectuals to figures lurking in the shadows of the underground. His interests were just as eclectic. He had a passion for classical music, yet indulged in collecting cutting-edge technology. He was deeply invested in his family's history, while also fascinated by cryptography and the occult. These contradictions weren't a flaw, but a defining characteristic. Two opposing forces coexisting within him. But as investigators delved deeper, they uncovered a darker side to Arthur's life. He sought solace in alcohol and tobacco, often seen driving alone through desolate roads in the dead of night. Eyewitnesses claimed he had been spotted in hushed meetings with an unidentified woman in the back alleys of an old city quarter. Her identity remains a mystery. And then there were his cryptic journal entries. One passage in particular stood out: old wounds never heal, an unfinished fate. Was this a reflection of his inner turmoil, or had he foreseen his own tragic end? Among Arthur's personal belongings, police discovered a tattered journal filled with entries that traced the tangled web of his family's past. It wasn't just a historical record. It was a raw, unfiltered confession of his own struggles. Psychological experts analyzing his notes suggested that Arthur had been locked in a silent battle within himself. On one hand, he yearned to break free from his family's shadow, to carve his own path. On the other, he remained ensnared in its grasp, unable to escape. This internal conflict left him particularly vulnerable, caught between tradition and modernity, between duty and desire. Then there were the physical clues, small but significant artifacts that hinted at a larger story. In his study, authorities uncovered an intricately designed pocket watch, engraved with cryptic symbols that seemed to hold ties to secretive family rituals. Scattered near his dining table were a handful of anonymous letters, their contents laced with resentment and veiled accusations against the family's past. Were these coincidences, or deliberate breadcrumbs Arthur left behind, hoping someone would follow them? And then there was his final journey. In the days leading up to his death, Arthur had been seen revisiting locations linked to long-forgotten crimes. Was he seeking closure, or was he unknowingly walking into a trap? Behavioral analysts suggested that every outing, every encounter, might not have been random. There could have been an unseen hand guiding his fate. Had Arthur unknowingly become a pawn in a larger scheme? Or had he been playing his own dangerous game all along? With each revelation, we begin to see Arthur Grant not just as a man, but as a puzzle. One whose edges blur between past and present, between victim and conspirator. His lineage, his obsessions, his flaws, every detail is another thread in the unraveling mystery. And as we press forward, we must ask, was his death the result of fate's cruel hand, or the meticulous design of a hidden adversary? Stay with us, because what we uncover next may change everything we thought we knew. Stepping into the grand hall of the old estate, the first impression is one of faded splendor. The space, though aged, remains meticulously arranged, as if time itself had been reluctant to disturb its order. A grand crystal chandelier hangs in the center, its once brilliant facets now dulled by layers of dust. Yet it still catches just enough light to whisper of past opulence. Every detail seems to fit seamlessly into the estate's history. The family portraits gazing solemnly from the walls, the intricately carved wooden furniture, even the antique inscriptions etched onto each door frame. At first glance, everything appears to adhere to a familiar narrative, reinforcing the notion of an estate that once thrived within the rigid structures of its era. But beneath this careful order lies something far more unsettling. Investigators first noticed something amiss at the very spot where Arthur Grant's final letter was found. A thick volume detailing the family's history sat open on his desk, its aged pages bearing unmistakable signs of alteration. Sections where ink had been deliberately overwritten, words that did not match the handwriting of its original author. Someone had attempted to erase or rewrite history. And strangely enough, these modifications eerily mirrored Arthur's cryptic mention of a forgotten secret in his final words. As they delved deeper, more inconsistencies emerged, subtle yet deliberate. By the fireplace at the end of the corridor, they discovered an ornate pocket watch, its hands frozen at an unsettlingly precise moment. Exactly 12 p.m. But forensic analysis had already confirmed that Arthur's death had occurred much earlier. The misplaced timepiece felt less like a coincidence and more like an intentional misdirection. A classic tactic used to manipulate an investigation and lead detectives down a false trail. And that wasn't the only anomaly. Throughout the estate, there were indications that the space had been arranged rather than merely abandoned. In the study, investigators found an anonymous letter, its ink smeared in places, yet curiously untouched in others, suggesting an attempt to disguise or perhaps reveal key information. In the dimly lit hallway, a painting that should have been firmly fixed to the wall hung at an unnatural tilt, revealing beneath it a cluster of cryptic symbols. These markings bore a striking resemblance to the Grant family crest, yet carried slight distortions, as if conveying a hidden message only decipherable to those who understood its significance. But the most compelling discovery lay beneath the estate itself. The basement door, long thought to be undisturbed, showed signs of forced tampering. Strangely, though, whoever had attempted to break in had also taken great care to conceal their efforts, leaving no clear fingerprints, only subtle abrasions on the lock's mechanism. Crime scene experts theorized that this was a deliberate misdirection, meant to create the illusion of an untouched, inaccessible room. An old trick designed to push investigators away rather than draw them in. And in one of the darkened corners of the basement, chiseled faintly into the surface of an old brick, was a sequence of numbers. Numbers that matched almost exactly a passage in Arthur's letter. With every piece of evidence, a pattern began to emerge. The estate, at first glance, was an architectural relic frozen in time. Yet beneath that illusion lay something far more intricate, a space where logic and deception intertwined seamlessly. Every perfectly placed artifact, every seemingly historical element, felt engineered to tell a specific version of the past. But then, lurking just beneath the surface, were the contradictions, the manipulated timestamps, the misplaced objects, the inconsistencies in ink and handwriting. Was this all the work of an unseen hand, an orchestrated deception meant to distort the truth? Or had Arthur himself left behind these fragmented clues, knowing they would one day lead to the very answers he sought? What we do know is this: the Grant estate holds more than just history. It holds a game of shadows played out in plain sight, and somewhere within its walls, within its buried secrets, lies the truth behind Arthur Grant's final days. The real question is, will we uncover it before it's too late? Stay with us, because the deeper we go, the closer we get to unraveling the web of deception woven into the very fabric of this house. Inside the mind of a mastermind, the psychological traps of this chilling case. All right, folks, let's break this down. At first glance, every clue in this case seems like a random puzzle piece, just another part of a tragic story. But look a little closer, and you'll start to see a pattern. Every single detail, every so-called coincidence, might actually be part of an elaborate psychological game designed to mislead, distract, and ultimately bury the truth beneath layers of deception. The double-edged sword of the will. Take Arthur's will, for example. On the surface, it reads like a desperate confession, maybe even a final attempt to make peace with his family's dark past. But what if that's exactly what someone wants us to think? In criminal psychology, there's something called a baited trap, a technique where an individual's vulnerabilities are exploited to create a misleading narrative. Arthur's will could be one of those traps. On one hand, it exposes the family's hidden secrets. On the other, it conveniently muddies the waters, making it harder to separate fact from fiction. Misdirection, a classic high IQ crime strategy. Now, let's talk about the physical evidence, or rather the planted evidence. Investigators found a stop pocket watch frozen at exactly 12 p.m., along with a family history book containing clearly altered pages. Sounds like major clues, right? Maybe not. According to forensic experts, these could very well be decoy evidence, objects deliberately placed at the scene to lead investigators down the wrong path. This is a common tactic in sophisticated crimes. By overwhelming detectives with seemingly significant but ultimately irrelevant clues, the real mastermind can stay hidden in plain sight. And here's where things get really interesting. The way all these elements are arranged suggests someone knew exactly how the investigation would unfold. It's like they set up a logical loop, one that keeps authorities chasing their own tails, second-guessing every theory. A move like that requires serious planning, intelligence, and a deep understanding of human psychology. The psychological warfare behind the crime scene. Now let's consider Arthur himself. He was obsessed with his family's secrets, haunted by a past he couldn't escape. And that right there, that's a perfect psychological setup for manipulation. The killer may have played into Arthur's fears, using symbols, objects, and even the environment itself to construct a crime scene that mirrored his internal struggles. This wasn't just a murder, it was a carefully orchestrated experience designed to make everyone question what was real and what wasn't. Instead of using brute force or obvious violence, the killer created an atmosphere of paranoia. Think about it. A slightly tilted painting revealing cryptic markings, a letter with suspiciously deliberate smudges, a door lock that looks untouched but shows signs of tampering under close inspection. These are not random details. They are calculated psychological triggers, designed to make people doubt their instincts and fall deeper into the deception. The hidden code, a message from the past. And then there's the biggest wild card, the strange sequence of numbers found hidden at the scene. It's eerily similar to something mentioned in Arthur's will. Could this be a clue left behind by the killer, a signature, or even a warning? In modern forensic investigations, data analysis plays a crucial role in cracking cases like this. If this number sequence ties back to an unsolved crime from years ago, we might be looking at something much bigger than just Arthur's death. A copycat? A family curse? Or perhaps a decades-long conspiracy finally coming to light? Old-school tricks meet modern psychology. One of the most unsettling aspects of this case is how it blends traditional crime scene manipulation with modern psychological warfare. The killer didn't just rely on physical misdirection, like tweaking the crime scene temperature to throw off the estimated time of death. They also used subtler mind games to warp perception, making even the most experienced investigators second-guess what they thought they knew. This level of complexity isn't common. It suggests the perpetrator wasn't just committing a crime, they were performing one, carefully crafting a mystery so layered and intricate that solving it would feel nearly impossible. The bigger picture, a puzzle, waiting for the right mind. So what does all this tell us? That this isn't just a murder case. This is a high-stakes psychological chess match between the investigators and a criminal who knew exactly how they'd think. Every misplaced clue, every contradiction in the timeline, every tiny inconsistency, it all serves a purpose. But is it a distraction or a roadmap to the truth? That's the real question. And if there's one thing we do know, it's that in a case like this, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. The real answer is out there, but only for those willing to look beyond the obvious and into the mind of the one pulling the strings. Who is behind it all? And more importantly, what else are they hiding? Unraveling the mystery, the secrets hidden within the grand estate. As the dust settles and long-buried secrets begin to surface, it becomes clear every seemingly isolated clue is actually part of a much larger story. Arthur Grant's will, the frozen pocket watch, the altered family records, and even that cryptic set of numbers found in the basement, each of them fits into a puzzle far more intricate than a simple crime. This isn't just a murder case. It's a carefully orchestrated labyrinth of fate, power struggles, and psychological warfare. So the real question is, who's pulling the strings? Was this Arthur's own internal battle playing out in real life? Or is there a mastermind lurking in the shadows, crafting every twist and turn with meticulous precision? The unanswered questions hang heavy over the estate like a dense fog, seeping into every dimly lit corridor, waiting for someone bold enough to uncover the truth. In the search for answers, every detail matters. What seems insignificant at first glance might hold the key to unlocking the mystery. And sometimes the things we overlook, the gaps in a story, the missing pieces, are what lead us to the biggest revelations. As the saying goes, the truth is never simple. So what do you think? Could there be more to this case than meets the eye? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who knows, maybe you'll spot a clue that changes everything. And if you're wondering about that missing will and what hidden tragedies it may have silently witnessed over the years, stay tuned. In our next episode, we'll be diving even deeper into the secrets buried within these ancient walls.